So growing up, I was always into video games. I'd played them constantly. I even had screen time implementations on because I would not leave my GameCube alone. And many years down the line, I had an itch to get back into some of the older stuff I played, namely Pokemon, because for the longest time I had this big itch to get back into Pokemon, so I would get online, play Pokemon Yellow or Pokemon Silver on an emulator on a computer. And that got me thinking, why don't I just go and buy the stuff back? Why don't I just buy a Game Boy, buy my Pokemon games, and call it at that? Well, a long time ago, back when I had my DS, and I was into Pokemon, I'd gotten in and out of it like twice. So my family had bought me the games twice at that point, and I'd gotten rid of them both times. And I had this idea in my head that my family will not want me to get back into Pokemon because they will not think I'm going to get very far with playing Pokemon anymore. So I thought up a little scheme that ended in one of the worst financial decisions of my life. And I came up with the idea that, yeah, I'm going to just call it collecting retro video games. And that'll be my ticket to get back into Pokemon. I certainly got back into Pokemon and then some. And with today being the 10th anniversary of actually pulling the trigger and getting that whole collection started, let's go and talk about stuff. I have scattered across the floor in front of me a bunch of games I want to talk about, as well as my top 10 games personally at this moment of all time for me, as of 10 years into collecting games. And to start off, let's go over some stuff that's I have some personal connections with, talk about the stuff that I played a ton as a kid, and let's jump over here. And this was the Poison that got me initially. I saw the commercials for it. I never thought Pokemon would be a big deal, but I was coming home from a family vacation on I don't remember if we were in Disneyland, Disney World. I guess that's irrelevant. But there was a kid next to me on the plane who had a DS and he was playing Pokemon. And us being kids, we're like, yeah, cool DS. Want to swap games for a minute, play games for a minute? And I played Pokemon Diamond for all of like 20 minutes, and I decided I have to get this game. I gotta get Pokemon Diamond. And I kept telling my family, it's like, yeah, I gotta get Diamond. Diamond's the boy one, Pearl's the girl one. And later that year I opened up Pokemon Pearl, and it became the game that I spent the most time in as a kid, next to probably Sonic Adventure 2, but we'll get to Sonic Adventure 2. Yeah, Pokemon Pearl. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, and I could never kick Pokemon since. Now, you heard me say that I got rid of everything and then decided to get back into it, right? Well, that's where this one came in. Once I decided, you know what, let's play it again. I ended up picking up Platinum from a VGMX by my house, and I proceeded to play this game for endless hours, as well as hack it, just like I did with Pearl with an action replay, get all the event Pokemon. You know, that stuff was just not available anywhere else unless you hacked it in. And my childhood obsession with Pokemon does not end there. I had bought and played Fire Red, Leaf Green, Emerald. Those were the 3 GBA ones I had. I never got the original Game Boy ones until later down the line. But there was one game in the series that came out, and I saw it. I watched a YouTuber play chunks of this game, talk about this game, and he was playing the Japanese copy before it even came out in the US. And I looked at it and I was like, this is amazing. I absolutely have to get this. This is the first ever game that I'm going to pre-order myself. And I could not control the hype for it. I went down to GameStop with my family and I pre-ordered Pokemon Soul Silver. I beat this game from the start screen all the way up till catching the Hoenn legendaries in a week. 1 week after I got this game. And mind you, I was like an elementary schooler. I freaking loved this game. I replayed the Elite Four. I fought Red on Mount Silver probably hundreds of times. And yeah, this was probably, out of the mainline Pokemon games, this is probably the best one I have ever played. I adore this game. This game is going to always have a very special place in my heart, along with, obviously, Pearl and Platinum. Now, when we went to GameStop to pre-order Soul Silver, they had been advertising that, yeah, you'll get this awesome Lugia figure if you pre-order the game. So I walk in there all bright-eyed, like, oh man, I might not get the game yet, but I'm going to get my Lugia figure right away. And the guy's like, you don't know how pre-order bonuses work, do you? You get it with the game. And I was devastated, to say the least. And the guy probably saw how upset I was, so he gave me this little Arceus figure, actually, which is extremely cool. I've only ever really seen this show up in like Pokemon trading card packs, and apparently it was like a pre-order bonus for something in Japan. I don't really know how it ended up at the GameStop. I haven't looked into much of this recently. But eventually, when we went to go and pick up the pre-order, there's my Lugia figure. And while that's not my copy that I got when I was a kid, it's not my original copy, both the Arceus figure and the Lugia figure are both from the time I pre-ordered it. So those are my original figures as a kid. So now we talked about what got me into this whole hobby. Let's talk about the rest of the stuff I played as a kid. Like, stuff that just, probably a solid year's worth of my time went into a lot of this stuff. One of the first systems I remember getting was a Game Boy Advance. I had the little battery-powered one. My sister had a little battery-powered one. We played those things to death. And then I got myself an SP. And I distinctly remember mine getting burnt with an iron and then lost in an airport, which was kind of tragic, but I got another one later. Some of the games that I sunk the most time into, aside from Pokemon, I had this little Power Rangers game, Power Rangers Wild Force. I spent forever playing this game, but I could never really beat it as a kid, even though when I got it not too long ago, I just sat down and beat it in a couple hours. Not as good of a game as I thought as a kid, but hey, I was a Power Rangers kid. That's what you gotta get. And then these games, hours and hours and hours playing Pac-Man, Galaga, Dig Dug, especially this thing. I played the heck out of the arrangements on there. Played a lot of Pac-Mania. Tried to get into Pac Attack, but I couldn't really understand puzzle games as a kid. But these two games are what really got me into arcade gaming, and I love it to this day. And the game challenge, if you've been following that, we had a Galaga competition recently, which I managed to take the cake for, which, woo, victory. All those hours playing Namco Museum on the Game Boy paid off. The next system I remember having, this is gonna easily show my age here, but the Nintendo GameCube. And easily, the biggest time sink on the GameCube was Sonic. I was a diehard Sonic kid. I lived and breathed Sonic. Played the heck out of Adventure, Adventure 2, Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, which, funny enough, this was the game that taught me what cursing was. Long before music, before movies. Shadow the Hedgehog. This is what taught me what cursing was and how I learned it was a bad thing. Which I find hysterical. Played a bunch of Sonic Riders. I got my taste for the retro stuff with these two bad boys. My love for Sonic CD really came from this one and the iOS port that came out many years later. Speaking of Sonic, got a couple more things over here relating to me being a diehard Sonic kid. Everyone, meet my best friend when I was like an elementary schooler. It's all yellowed, its foot's broken, it's missing its nose, its tail's all chewed up, but this thing, this Sonic Adventure toy, I loved to death. It was probably like a sibling to me, almost. And I've held on to him all this time. My family and myself can't bring ourselves to get rid of it. And then this was the one video game soundtrack I had as a kid, as far as I can remember. Sonic Heroes. Had a little CD player radio combo next to my bed at all times, and I probably listened through this thing a couple hundred times. Got myself a little MP3 player, and I put this on there, and I would just sit by the computer recording songs from video games. I probably had a ton of other Sonic songs. I had Pokemon songs, Mario songs. I still have that MP3 player. I kind of want to go through and see what tracks I had on there again. Sounds like it'd be fun. And then this Sonic the Movie VHS. I had one of these as a kid, and I spent hours just watching, rewinding. When I was in the midst of it, I'd probably watch this thing at least once or twice a week. I love this movie that much, and I still love it today. Nobody else that I show it to likes it, but this is probably one of my favorite pieces of Sonic media outside of the games, period. This is the Sonic movie to me, and I still liked the original Sonic movie. Still haven't seen the second one yet, but that's going to be taken care of soon here. On to the rest of the GameCube stuff. Now, I didn't have this specific one as a kid. I had just Pac-Man World 2 by itself, but I played this forever and ever and ever and ever. And this was also partially inspired by my love that I got for Namco properties from the Namco Museum games. But Pac-Man and Sonic, they were my jam growing up as far as video games go. That was all me right there. And I also learned what anime was as a kid. I found out about a cartoon showing up on this Toonami thing called Naruto. And as soon as I found out they made games for it, I immediately told my parents that we have to get these games. This one's the first one. I played through the campaign on this 5 or 6 times, but I could never beat the secret boss, which was Rock Lee. I had to have my dad beat that boss for me, because I just could not, for the life of me, beat Rock Lee, and he was this cool, mysterious character that showed up at the start of the Chunin Exams arc. Which I found out how the Chunin Exams arc ended before it aired in the US because of this game here. This had come out right in the middle of that arc, and this game follows the story all the way through the end of the Chunin Exams arc. So this was my first spoiler, I guess? Question mark? Even though I was ready and excited to see what happened through this game. that was a lot of fun. I got myself a Nintendo DS later down the line as well. The first game I played on there was New Super Mario Bros., and I love the heck out of this one, just like the majority of the games I've shown here today. I've played endless hours of the mini-games on this, beat several levels over and over again. I loved the heck out of the one level in World 8 where you're running up the inside of a volcano trying to escape the lava. I probably played that 100 times. And the mini-games. Oh, I played so much of the mini-games on this thing. Had the Nintendo DS wireless function, link it to my sister's DS, link it to my friend's DS, and we just sit there and do mini-game contests for hours. Many car rides, many bus rides. This was my jam. Along with this one. Mario Kart needs no introduction, but Mario Kart DS is easily my favorite Mario Kart in the series. I played the balloon battle by myself, even, just for probably hundreds of hours. Loved the Luigi's Mansion level in that one. On to another Mario game. Mario vs. Donkey Kong. A Game Informer ad or a TV ad or something sold me on this, but it's very different from any other Mario game I played. It's like a creative puzzle platformer that I spent way too much time in the level editor building. And I remember they had toys for these. They're probably only in Japan, but I begged for the toys of these. I even drew my own little mini Marios in elementary school to play with. And a long time passes, and a package shows up from, probably Japan, that my parents ordered for me. That had a bunch of little mini Marios, mini Donkey Kongs, and I was absolutely ecstatic. And then I found out how bad the build quality was on them, and I proceeded to break like 3 of them. Another unbelievable time sink. Now, I had Chihuahua and Friends, but Nintendogs was... oh boy. Nintendogs was very near and dear to me. I couldn't tell you how much time I sunk into that, me and my sister. It got to the point where we'd been asking our parents for a dog for a long time, and I told them, like, yeah, if we get an actual dog, I'm never playing Nintendogs again. I promise. And we got another dog, and funny enough, I don't think I ever really played Nintendogs after that. Or at least I slowed down on it heavily. Yeah, this is definitely what helped influence me wanting a dog, was this game right here. And the last game I'm going to talk about from my childhood on the DS is Dragon Ball Z Supersonic Warriors 2. Another one that I played for too long. I would take this game with me everywhere. I remember playing this long card trips at home, waiting in line for autographs at Cincinnati Reds Fest, which was an autograph show they had in Cincinnati. And my dad would send me into the kids line by myself to go get some autographs for myself and a couple for him, even though it was probably not allowed, but this is how I would pass the time in those lines by myself. I would just pop this in, and I'd try and grind through all of the what-if stories in it. Some of those were very hard, and I don't even think I ever finished all of them, but the what-ifs in this game are very fun, soundtrack's very good, and yeah, just all around very fun game that I think back on fondly of, and I spent a long time trying to track this one down after the fact. And then, the Wii was a major part of my life as a kid. I don't have as much fond memories as I did with the DS and the GameCube, but a couple of games do really stick out for me. And that would be, of course, anybody who had a Wii and was my age has memories with Guitar Hero 3. Or heck, it even came out on other systems. Plenty of people know Guitar Hero 3. My dad was really into this music, it got me really into this music, and Through the Fire and Flames is a very hard song, and the only song from Dragon Force that I actually know. But I saw them play it live in concert once while I was waiting in line to meet another band at a festival, and that was a wonderful moment. And then the ultimate family versus night was Mario Super Sluggers. This game was too much fun. I got to learn a lot of the tricks of the trade with this one because of how much I played it, and it got to the point where we had a household rule of we banned curveball throws because I would strike everybody out with curveball throws, and they just got mad at me. So that wraps up all of the up to elementary school memories, all that good stuff from what I would honestly just consider a childhood. And then I have a small stack of stuff here. You can notice a theme on the coloring here of what I was probably playing. But probably about middle school up until 2012 when I decided to actually just jump into the idea of collecting games. These were the things that I was mostly playing. I had convinced myself that I needed an Xbox 360. That's where all the cool, edgy games are. And before that, what really sparked my interest in getting one of those newer consoles was a game on the Nintendo Wii, and this is going to be funny, but it's Call of Duty 3. Now, I don't have a Wii copy anymore, but this was the quickest one I could grab, was my original Xbox copy. With motion controls and all, I played through the entirety of Call of Duty 3, and that was going to be my trial run to see if I actually liked these kind of games before we go and buy a whole console based around Call of Duties and shooters and zombies and all that crazy stuff. But Call of Duty 3. Driving a tank with a Wiimote and nunchuck was the worst. I hated it, but I did it so I could beat this freaking game. And I need to go back and try it again at some point. Maybe on the original Xbox where I've got thumbstick controls. Maybe I'll try it on the Wii again, just to relive the whole experience. But Call of Duty 3 was the first Call of Duty I ever played. And that was at around the time that Black Ops had just come out. Black Ops is what really sparked my interest in it. And speaking of course, Black Ops. The first game that I wanted to get with my system, I had bought a copy of Black Ops and the Zombies map DLC, and I had that before I even had an Xbox 360. This was just sitting at my house waiting until my birthday when I would finally open it up, redeem all my receipt codes, and just dive in, play a crap ton of Call of Duty Zombies. I remember I was just a kid, still, probably like 7th grade. And I get on Xbox Live for the first time, jump in a match of, I think it was Dare Reese. I pop on my mic and my little speaker voice and I'm just like, "Hey guys, this is my first time on Xbox Live. I'm looking forward to having fun playing zombies with you guys." And yeah. Xbox lobbies back then were brutal. I even had other squeakers in that lobby who were yelling at me to go away. "Get out of here, we don't want no newbie, you suck." And I was just like, well, I'm gonna just mute myself for a little bit and try again later. And of course, we jumped into other Call of Duty since then. This was probably the heyday of my Call of Duty playing. I played hours of both of these games. This is the first one that I actually got myself a prestige rank in. And I got a gold shotgun in this one, and I was so excited about it. And then this one probably just has the best multiplayer of any COD I've ever played. And then on to like one of the first huge single-player experiences I ever did on the 360, but I don't have my 360 copy anymore, was Assassin's Creed 2. It really got me into like different kind of history, because I'd been a World War II buff after I played Call of Duty 3, because yeah, a kid plays with shooty game, and then he gets into shooty things and likes shooty things. But this really got me into a different mindset when it came to learning about history. And later down the line, finding out that this was actually a very accurate representation of Italy back then was really cool. But I played this one for, I don't even know how long I played it, but I went through and I got every single special piece of armor, beat up the Pope as the final boss, and I booted up the next game in the series, saw Ezio in the black armor, and I was like, oh yes, that's the one I got last game. Did it remember? And then the next cutscene happens in that your house burns down, all those collectibles that you got in the last game burned, and then you lose your black armor, and I was like, I don't know if I can keep going with this one. And then I have never beaten an Assassin's Creed since. This is the only one I have beaten. But I want to get back into the Assassin's Creed franchise and play through them all again. Well, all of them might be a bit of a tall order, but I definitely want to play the older ones again. I really want to replay 2, because 2 was... I loved the heck out of Assassin's Creed 2. And when I said I would try again later with the Xbox Live stuff, this is where I actually made my first online friends. There was one night playing Left 4 Dead. There were these guys on the lobby just goofing around, doing funny voices, and I was like, they seem like fun guys. So I decided to turn my mic back on, and we probably played online with each other in like Left 4 Dead, Call of Duty for at least a year and a half, and those were some of the best gaming memories of that time. I miss those guys. I don't know where they are. I don't even remember all their usernames, but yeah, good times. The memes of Last Online 3 years ago hit different nowadays. Alright, and then, next up, on that fateful day, 10 years ago, bought a Nintendo. First thing I got, of course, Mario 1. You gotta get Mario 1 with a Nintendo. And then the second game, Kung Fu. My dad held on to his older game consoles when I was younger, and I played on the Genesis, I played on the Nintendo. But none of it really stuck with me a lot, except for, like, of course, the Sonic stuff. But I played Kung Fu as a kid, I played Mario 1 as a kid, but the reason they're here now is because these were the very first games that I ever bought when I decided that I'm going to get into the retro collecting hobby. That's why these two are as important to me as they are. That and they're just fun games. I beat Mario 1 not too long ago for the first time, which it shouldn't have taken me this long to beat it, but I never actually sat down with the mindset of, alright, we're going to play this until it's done, until we get to the final level, beat Bowser and all that jazz. For Kung Fu, I still haven't beaten. I'll have to make a point of getting that one finished here sometime soon. It's not long. I can almost beat level 2 out of, I think, 4. Yeah, it's long overdue that I beat this one as well. And then this here, this was the first one that my dad ever really recommended to me. One of the first times I actually branched out and found something different. And I remember calling around to all these different stores, putting my name in. It's like, we gotta find Contra. Oh, you'll love Contra, you'll love Contra, you'll love Contra. And we finally got a call, and I went and picked it up. And turns out I love Contra. This game, I haven't really tried to beat it without the Konami code, but I've beaten this game a nice handful of times using the Konami code. Playing it with my dad, playing it with my cousin, with my friends. I've given a few people the badge of honor of saying that they have technically beat Contra, even if it was with the code. And then, not long after that, I was bored on my iPhone looking through Apple Podcasts of all things, and I stumbled on this guy called Gamester81, and he was the first ever retro gaming influencer that I ever found and followed. And he talked about this game right here, Chase the Chuck Wagon. He talked about the unique story about it, how you have to send in Purina Dog Chow proof of purchases and then wait to get this game in the mail. And I just thought that was really cool, really unique, and I made it one of my missions to go and seek out the first really rare game that I ever really wanted to buy. I've beaten it. It's not a good game, but I mean, it still holds a special place in my heart just from it being the start of my getting into YouTube scene. Watching retro game YouTubers, learning more about it from them, and met Gamester a couple of times. He's a pretty cool dude still. And then another huge target of mine, one of my best friends back in the day, he had been really into this game. He was telling me all about it. And this was the one game everybody needed to have it. It was a badge of honor if you owned Earthbound on the Super Nintendo. And I searched and I searched and I searched for this game. I'm trying to make it my goal to get a physical copy of it before my friend, who was also really into Earthbound. And I had to cheat. I got a boxed copy of Mother 2, the Super Famicom port. And I thought, well, I guess this might count, this might not count. Whatever, you know. So then, later down the line, there's a store nearby that got this copy in. Both my friend and I call in, and we're just like, dude, hold it for us. And then he's like, sorry, man, it's sold. And then, hilariously enough, that Christmas, I opened this up, and it was my dad who had just bought it. He was standing there at the counter when my friend and I were calling about this game. And, it took me way too long to beat this one as well. When I finally beat it, it was nice. It was a pretty good game. This guidebook is almost certainly a necessity, I would say, for it, though. It is very, very cryptic. Another nice craze I had was all started because of this game right here. A iOS port of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 got me into the idea of playing fighting games. And it was this game and Street Fighter 2. These were my games. I wanted to do nothing but play Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter for the longest time. I sunk lots of time into this, and I am still very bad at them. I would lose horribly if I went up against anybody who was competent in these games, but I still love them to death. Started to expand my systems library a little bit as well. And one of the earlier, the very second system I got after the after the Nintendo was a Genesis, and I picked up Sonic 1, and later down the line I got Sonic 2, which this is probably my very favorite, like, 2D Sonic. It's always back and forth between this one and Sonic CD, but Sonic 2 is just iconic, and I think I gotta settle with Sonic 2 being my favorite classic Sonic. Many hours, many times just being like, Mom, I can't go to bed yet, I'm so close, you have to let me stay up, I'm on the... I don't remember what level I was on, I was close to the end though. But I still haven't beaten the Death Egg robot. I can make it to him, I cannot beat him. I guess I'm just bad at Sonic still. Then I got an Atari not too long after that, and probably my favorite game on that Atari is Maze Craze, solely because of how heated the couch co-op sessions, or couch versus sessions, get between me and my friends. We found out that once you get to the end of the maze, you can just push up against a wall. It'll just constantly go woo, and we'd use that to taunt each other if we got to the end. A couple of times while we were doing that, we'd look away for a second, and then the other person would slip by us and win the round, and it was always a good time. Love Maze Craze. Got a PlayStation 1 I don't remember which one came first. It was the PlayStation 1 or the Atari. Probably the Atari. But from a Hidden Gems video, I discovered the glory that is Bushido Blade 2. Well, Bushido Blade 1 and 2, but 2 is the one that I got first. I knew how it worked. I knew that it was a realistic fighter, where like one hit could kill you. And my buddies and I played this for many weekends, many nights, and we just started learning how the game worked. We discovered how to throw up sand to blind your opponent. We discovered how to throw swords. We discovered how to pick up your swords. We just experimented and learned until we got into these really crazy matches. It was just always a really, really good time. I want to get back to playing this more at some point soon, now that I've got the first one too. And then a show later in life I started watching called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was huge to me, and I wound up convincing my family to get one of these for my birthday, which back then it was an expensive game, and nowadays it's stupid expensive. But I'm glad to say I have it now. It's a pretty fun fighter. Definitely one of the crown jewels of my PS1 collection. Let's jump on back to some Nintendo stuff. Actually, first we'll do this one. It's just one game left in the Sony category. I got my PlayStation 4 for Christmas one year, and on Christmas Eve we walked into Best Buy to redeem a bunch of gift cards I got, and the first game that I picked up with it was The Last of Us Remastered. This game was very, very purty back when I had that PS4, and I still think it looks pretty good today. But this game blew me away in terms of, like, just how well I thought it played, despite some spots being very difficult and frustrating and annoying. But the atmosphere was great, the story was really something else. Like, up to that point, I don't think I'd experienced a story that was any better than this. This probably was the best story in games for me for a long time, until I played my favorite game of all time, which I will get to. Let's jump on over to the Nintendo Wii U. Wound up with a copy of Mario Kart 8 when we first got the Wii U. Yes, I played Mario Kart Wii more, but Mario Kart 8 was probably the most fun Mario Kart console-wise that I'd ever played. And the reason why this one's here specifically is, like, this was one of the first games that my grandpa ever sat down and played with us. It's like, sure, we'd, like, pass the controller on, like, Pac-Man or something every now and then, but he would actually, like, grab the Wiimotes, he'd be flinging his arms around, just having a good time, and we were all playing at the same time. And he was laughing the whole time, we were laughing the whole time. And for, like, those couple play sessions alone, that's why this game is here. And specifically the Wii U version, because the Switch port was not out at that point. And then this game was probably one of the bigger if not the biggest influences of my circle of friends at the time. I keep saying I and freezing up every now and then, but it's whatever. Gotta load my sentences in my brain. But this game I played a ridiculous amount, as well as playing it with friends, participating in tournaments, organizing events at my house around at other people's houses, even a club in high school. We would play the crap out of this game. Back at the game store that we used to frequent, we would play it all the time there. Played at home, made lots of friends through this game. Lots of friends played this with me over time, and even though Smash Ultimate is probably the best one at the moment, this one is always going to hold a special place for me because of just like how involved I was with this game and how involved my circle of friends was specifically around this game. And going over to the 3DS, the 3DS is what really started to make me more of an RPG guy, what really got me more into my modern taste of games. And to kick that off, one of the first big games I played on the 3DS was Fire Emblem Awakening. And this is what got me into the idea of playing strategy RPGs. And I never looked back from there. Strategy RPGs are probably one of my favorite genres. I just feel like they're consistently good. I haven't played enough of them yet, but all the ones I've played I've had a great time with. Oh, and final boss for this game, I finally beat it while we were on vacation. We were on a long car ride going between places in Florida, and the setting for the final boss are on the back of a huge dragon while the sun's rising, and then I was playing it in the car with my headphones in at sunrise, so the sun was rising outside, sun was rising in the game, and everything just kind of meshed together, and that final boss experience was one of the best ones I've ever had. And then, easily the biggest influence as far as liking RPGs was this guy right here, Xenoblade Chronicles 3D, which this one became my favorite game of all time not too long after beating it. My icon right now is Shulk. I am an absolute nut about the Xeno series, and this is what really got me into it. I'll talk about this a little more in my top 10. Last up on the 3DS, once I beat Fire Emblem, I beat Xenoblade, I was like, alright, let's try out something else. Let's go on to Project Cross Zone, or X Zone. I call it X Zone, others call it Cross Zone, but both of these games influenced my playing habits and my collecting habits from then on down the line. Like, I made it a point to actively seek out games featuring the characters in these games, and you'll see a little bit of that reflected in my top 10. You'll see a couple of recurring characters that appeared in these games. But from here, what all did I buy from here? This is how I got myself into Darkstalkers. I wound up getting even more involved in Street Fighter because of these. I got into Sakura Wars because of these. Resident Evil I got deeper into because of these. And Yakuza, there's Virtua Fighter, Shenmue, Tales, Valkyria Chronicles. It's just chock full of pretty much everything that I like to play nowadays. Absolutely phenomenal strategy RPGs. Well, a lot of people hate them because they're long and long-winded maps, but just the amount of fan service, even though I wouldn't really even know it's today. Or I would know it today. I wouldn't have known it then because I hadn't played like any of those other games, but all the character interactions were fun, and that's what I got the biggest kick out of all of those. Oops, I kicked my stand. No. So that about does it for the games that I found just to have some sort of attachment to me. Games I could talk about, games that meant something to me at some point. And now I've got a couple other things I want to show before I get into my top 10. A couple of really cool, some things really rare, some things unique, some things just out there. Just random things I've picked up over the course of my collecting and some things I've sought out. And to kick it off, a big old Super Mario Brothers 2 beer mug dated back in '89 that I found on a Facebook buy-sell trade page for I think like $5. And this thing has just been a nice little centerpiece for the game room in its section, at least. I try to make it stand out where I can because it's just such a beautiful glass. I mean, look at that. There's like no chips in the paint either. It's in almost flawless condition. And then this thing, a George Foreman grill. Why the heck is a George Foreman grill a piece of like my personal gaming history? Well, if you look real closely, if it'll show up in the light, it says PlayStation 2 right there. This was our family's George Foreman for a long time. And my dad worked at a DVD distribution facility, whatever you want to call it. And he pressed like GameCube games, Xbox games, PS2 games, mostly THQ stuff. But this was gifted to him by Sony's marketing team. And I kind of just stumbled on it in our pantry one time. And I told them, do not throw this out, do not donate it to Goodwill. When you're done with it, give it to me. And years down the line, I had to fish it out of a box. I was about to go to Goodwill. But I now have this. I only know of like one other out there. One or two other ones. I don't know how many of them are surviving, how many are left, but yeah, here's one of them. And my last two things here, we'll start off with a copy of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, signed by Mike Tyson himself. Met him in person at a signing event here in town, and got it certified and everything. There's not too much more I can say about it, but it is definitely one of my favorite pieces in the collection right now. And then lastly, something very cool, very unexpected, that literally just fell into my lap. Well, maybe not my lap, but it fell onto the floor in front of me. I was down in Dayton at a flea market, and I bought a lot of old Nintendo comics, and there was like this old Game Boy comic. And one night my friends were over, I was just like, yeah, check out this comic. I take it out of the sleeve, start flipping through the pages, and something falls onto the floor, and it just happens to be a Nintendo World Championships 1990 VIP semi-finalists pass, with a guest pass stuck to the back of it. I think I froze for a solid minute when that hit the floor. I was blown away by the fact that that just appeared in front of me, and that I probably paid 50 cents for it, along with the book. Nowadays, I check online just to see like how common these are, if there's anything specific I can learn about them, which I reached out to a couple of retro gaming YouTubers, and they all thought it was pretty cool, but obviously there's not a whole lot of markings on here that you can really identify where it's from, whose it was, anything like that. But after some research, a competition was held in Dayton, and I found this in Dayton at a flea market, so that lines up at least, which is pretty cool. And yeah, that wraps up a lot of what I wanted to talk about today. And one of the biggest suggestions I got when I asked my friends what I should do for this whole video was, show me your top 10 games of all time. Okay, I'll do that for you right now. Well, I did start recording my top 10 just then, but about halfway through the list, it wound up just cutting the video, because I guess my phone ran out of storage or something. So, we're going to try this again, now that I've emptied some storage on my phone, and found out that I have better camera settings on my phone, so this is probably going to look prettier than the last 43 minutes you watched. We'll start off with number 10, which is Bowser's Inside Story. Played the crap out of this game, played the final boss over and over again. Music's great, story was surprisingly good for a Mario RPG story. Now, they did make a 3DS remake of it, and yes, I've played it, I've beat it. Still think this one is probably better. I'm probably nostalgia talking there, but I think the music was a little better, and the 2D, more hand-drawn looking-ish graphics appealed more to me than the like 3D sprite-based ones. Number 9, don't sleep on Undertale. I almost did. Only because I made a cheeky promise that if it got a physical release, I'd buy it, thinking that it would never get a physical release. And then little did I know, I would own all 3 console physical releases not long after I played this one. Another good case of good story, good music, good graphics, and overall just a very good time, very unique RPG with a very deep story with a lot of weird lore, a lot of fun screwing with your game type elements, memorable characters, and one of the hardest boss fights I've ever done in my life, which the only time I've ever beat Sans is on the Vita copy. Not my PS4 copy, not my Switch copy, the Vita, the little tiny handheld with a little dinky D-pad. I did it. Very difficult, but one of my crowning achievements as a video game player. Number 8, Super Mario World, specifically Mario Advance 2. Didn't have a Super Nintendo as a kid, so I never knew this was a Super Nintendo game. Little did I know when I got my Super Nintendo and copy of Mario World, I was going to boot up what was my favorite Game Boy Advance game from being a kid. Now, as you'll see later in the list, I have another game that takes the cake as my favorite Game Boy Advance game. But Super Mario World as a kid, this was probably my favorite game on the system. I don't even really know how to put into words what made me like this game so much. Probably just a combination of it being a classic and how much time I invested as a kid into this game. Number 7 is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, and I know I probably picked the worst way I could have played this, the worst port out there, maybe. I don't know if there's a worse port than the 3DS one, but despite the weird frame issues and the lower resolution on this game, the game itself was good enough to carry me through the end. All the way from the realistic stealth and survival elements, like eating snakes, eating bears, eating roaches, fish, alligator, and then going up against just stupid, dumb stuff that wouldn't actually happen, like a lightning man and a ghost man and old man who refuses to die unless you kill his bird. Then he appears behind you on a cliff and blasts you off a cliff point blank with a sniper rifle in your sniper match. And then quickly becoming my favorite boss fight in the game, next to the final boss fight, which, if you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 3, play it to the end. You'll see what I mean with that final boss. It just hits so good. Such a good finale to this game. Number 6, probably the most recent game I played on this top 10 list is Yakuza 0. Now, this was another game that was introduced to me through the Project X Zone games. Got to meet Kiryu Majima in X Zone 2, and I really liked their characters and decided I wanted to get into their games. And they made this nice little prequel here around the time they made 6, I think, and it was amazing. I didn't know I would like Yakuza 0 this much. It's wacky, it's crazy, and it's one of the most serious crime dramas that they've ever put out in a video game, I think. Music's great. Probably the best in the series from what I'm hearing, which, got 6 more games to go. I hope the music is still good. But the writing in this game, the characters in this game, just the world, and all the things you can do in it. Yakuza is an experience. And if you haven't had that experience, do it. Number 5 is probably my favorite RPG on the PS2, probably just my favorite game on the PS2, and that is Xenosaga Episode 3. Now, me being a Xeno nut, of course I was going to play through the Xenosaga games eventually, and I loved 1. I liked 2. Story was good, game kind of sucked, but Xenosaga 3 is the peak of, like, old Xeno. I think it's better than Xenogears even, and Xenogears was really, really good. This game's got probably one of the best turn-based battle systems of its time, going from like the boost mechanics on the ground, combining that into the boost mechanics in the mech fights, which were so cool. Soundtrack was great, all the callbacks to Xenogears in this game were great. Xenosaga is a great series. I hope they remaster it so more people can give this series a try. Number 4 is probably the biggest nostalgia pick for me on the list, and number 4 is Sonic Adventure 2. I love this game. One of the constants with me is, as long as I breathe, I will say that this is my favorite Sonic game of all time. I will probably eat my words at some point if Sega decides to get their button gear and makes a really good Sonic game. But until that happens, Sonic Adventure 2 is the king of Sonic for me. Number 3 is one of the most emotionally driven stories in a video game that I have ever played, I think, and that is my favorite Game Boy Advance game, Mother 3. Now, of course, this is a Japanese copy, because they haven't made an English localization of this yet, but I played the fan translation first on a reproduction cart, which broke halfway through the game. I got about midway through a boss, and then this inevitable attack that he was going to use would always freeze my game, and I would cry. So I downloaded the fan patch onto my laptop, and just played through this game start to finish, probably within just a few weeks, and it was absolutely amazing. The finale in this game is probably my favorite finale in any game I've ever played. Even though I had it spoiled, I still almost cried at the end because of just how well this game presented it and how well the game just drives it home with what's going on and what you have to do to save the world at this point. Fantastic stuff. Play it. Number 2 is my favorite entry in the Persona series, Persona 4 Golden. Why this game over the other Personas? The setting, the world building, the cast, it feels cozy, you know? Almost all the party members in here are just regular dudes off the street, save for like a small handful here and there of like random pop idol, random detective, and a weird unexplained teddy bear creature. But they're all written in a way where they just kind of feel like your neighborhood buddies. Everyone feels like they're just normal dudes and girls off the streets that you would meet in real life. They're characters you feel like you could actually meet, converse with, and just hang out with. And by the end of this game, it truly felt like I was saying goodbye to a group of friends that I'd known for a long time. Very, very, very good game if you want to just get immersed in a world. Number 1, if you know anything about me, Xenoblade is my favorite game of all time. Specifically the Definitive Edition nowadays, despite playing the 3DS port originally. The setting in this game is truly something neat, something special. It's the corpses of 2 titans who are in an ancient battle with each other, and both of them dealt their final blows, and they just kind of froze in that position, and that's your setting. It picks up with the life on the Bionis, which is the biological life, this guy's home, versus the Mechonis, all sorts of machine life, and that is this guy right here on the cover that you can probably see. Big giant robot dude in the background. But it's the Homs, or the humans, versus the Mechon, and it's a huge battle for survival, and it's just very, very, very well written. Well, that wraps up the talky bits of my 10th anniversary special, if you want to call it that. To end things off, this is probably going to be the only part of the video that really gets consistent watch time, but I'm going to take you for a walk around the room here. Now, I can't do as crazy in-depth of a tour as I'd like. I don't have the space I need for that kind of setup yet, but I'll get there eventually. And once that's done, I promise I'll give you guys a full deep dive of everything that my game room has to offer. But for now, enjoy what I've got. Thanks for watching.